Have you ever noticed that you can work harder than anyone in the room? Want something more desperately than you've ever wanted anything, and still watch it slip further away the more you chase it? And meanwhile, there's this other version of your life, the one where things click into place, where the right person shows up, where money moves toward you instead of away, and it feels like it belongs to someone else. Here's what I want to tell you. That gap isn't about effort. It isn't about strategy, and it is absolutely not about luck. That gap exists because there is a version of you that you have never met. A whole personality, a complete set of desires and drives, living underneath the surface of everything you say and do, and it is running the show. Carl Jung figured this out over 100 years ago. He wrote it all down in a red leather book that his family locked in a vault for 50 years because they thought it would destroy him. It didn't destroy him. It proved he was decades ahead of everyone. And what's inside that book is exactly what I want to walk you through today. My name is Daniel Moreno, and I want to start with the thing that I think most people completely miss when they hear the name Carl Jung. They hear psychology. They think therapy, ink blots, maybe some dusty academic lectures. But what Jung actually discovered was something so radical that even the people closest to him weren't ready for it. So let me lay this out from the beginning. Zurich, December 1913. Jung is at the absolute top of his field. Freud's hand-picked successor, respected across Europe, running a thriving practice with a family at home and a reputation that would make most people feel bulletproof. And he starts hearing a voice, not a metaphorical voice, an actual voice. And with it come visions, rivers of blood flooding across the continent. These hit him in broad daylight, on trains, in his office. And Jung, a trained psychiatrist, reaches the most terrifying conclusion he can imagine. He is going insane. But here's where it gets interesting, right? Because instead of fighting it, instead of suppressing it, Jung decides to turn toward it. Every night after his family fell asleep, he would sit down and deliberately descend into his own mind. Like an explorer who finds a door in the basement he's never noticed before and decides, okay, I'm going in. What he found down there was not madness. It was a whole other person. A complete personality built entirely out of everything Carl Jung had refused to be. Every impulse he had suppressed. Every desire he had denied. Every quality he had pushed away because it didn't fit the image of the brilliant, composed, respected Dr. Jung. It had all been living down there, organized, active, and making decisions in his life without his conscious knowledge. He gave it a name, the shadow. Now, I want you to really sit with what that means, because this is where most people go, yeah, okay, shadow, I've heard that word. But here's what Jung actually said about it and why it matters so much. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Read that again. You will call it fate. You'll call it bad luck. You'll call it self-sabotage. You'll say, I don't know why I keep doing this. But what Jung found is that you're not one person making a single unified set of decisions. You're a committee. You've got the persona, the mask you wear for the world, the carefully curated version of yourself you've been performing since childhood. And then underneath that mask is the shadow, made of everything the mask rejected. And then buried under both of them is what Jung called the self, the whole, complete version of you that existed before the splitting ever started. The mask sets the goal, the shadow vetoes it, and you sit there wondering why you can't seem to move forward. Now, I've spent a lot of time with this material. I personally think this is the most underrated psychological insight of the 20th century, maybe ever, because it explains something that no amount of productivity hacking or positive thinking ever will. Why intelligent, motivated, genuinely hardworking people stay stuck. It's not a mindset problem, it's a wholeness problem. So let me get more specific here, because this is the part that actually changes things for people when they really hear it. The shadow doesn't form randomly. It forms in response to a very specific kind of event, a moment, usually in childhood, where a part of you got labeled as wrong, unacceptable, too much, not enough. And the way you survived that moment was to bury that part of yourself and build the persona on top of it. So now you're walking around with this goal: more money, better relationship, more confidence, a bigger life, whatever it is, and every time you get close to it, something happens. You self-destruct, you pull back, you sabotage, and you look at it from the outside and go, what is wrong with me? But here's what's actually happening. Your current identity, the one that formed around that original wound, is in direct conflict with the goal. The goal requires a version of you that the mask doesn't recognize. And the shadow, which has been running on that original wound this whole time, keeps intervening. Here's a concrete example. I went through a period in my late 20s where I was relentlessly driven, working constantly, hitting targets, checking every box, and feeling progressively more hollow the more I achieved. I'd hit a goal, and instead of feeling satisfaction, I'd feel this weird emptiness and then immediately start chasing the next thing. And I couldn't figure out why, because from the outside, by every measurable standard, things were working. But I realized eventually, and this took me embarrassingly long, I'll be honest, that everything I was chasing was connected to a core belief that I was not enough. That if I just achieved this one more thing, then I'd finally feel okay. Then I'd finally feel like I deserved to be in the room. And here's the brutal part: it never worked. Because the feeling of not enough wasn't going to be solved by an external achievement. The shadow was running on that wound and using every goal I set as fuel, but the finish line kept moving. The book Power vs. Force by David Hawkins talks about this in a really useful way. There are two modes of operating, right? Force and power. Force feels like constant tension, like you're always fighting, always pushing against something. It's anxious and constricted. Power is different. It's expansive. It's almost effortless. It attracts rather than chases. Most people live their whole lives in force because the shadow is running from a wound rather than moving toward genuine wholeness. And here's the tell. Look at who you attract. Look at your closest relationships. Jung observed that the qualities you've suppressed the hardest will show up in the people around you, not as a coincidence, but as the soul's attempt to complete itself. The hyper-controlled person attracts the chaotic partner. The relentlessly logical person falls for someone all emotion and feeling. Nature, in its slightly maddening way, is trying to make you whole. The goal was never the goal. The goal was always integration. Okay, so here's where we get into the actual method. Because I don't want to just leave you with, you have a shadow, good luck, that would be deeply unhelpful. And honestly, the method Jung used, the one he recorded in that red leather book, the one his family thought was so dangerous they locked it in a vault for nearly 50 years, is something any person can start practicing. It doesn't require a therapist or a decade of analysis. What it requires is the willingness to stop running. So let me walk you through how this actually works, right? First, you have to understand the architecture of the mind as Jung, and really anyone who's looked closely at this stuff, would describe it. Roughly 5% of you is conscious. You know that part, the narrator in your head, the decision maker you think is driving, but 95% is operating below the surface. Subconscious, unconscious, conditioning that runs so deep it's almost genetic. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. That's where the shadow lives. And here's the key thing. You cannot think your way out of the shadow. You can't analyze it into submission. Real change happens when you stop trying to consciously override it and start actually feeling into it. I'll tell you what shifted this for me personally. A few years back, I started doing something dead simple. Not glamorous, no special equipment, no retreat in the mountains, although honestly that sounds incredible. Just 10 minutes every morning where I would sit still and do a scan of my body. Not trying to fix anything, not trying to meditate the feelings away. Just noticing where tension was living. And consistently, every single time, there was something sitting in my chest. This tight, dense, slightly uncomfortable pressure that I had been unconsciously organizing my entire day around avoiding. When I stopped avoiding it and just let it be there, something strange happened. It started to dissolve on its own. This is what David Hawkins called the surrender method in his book, Letting Go. And it maps almost perfectly onto what Jung was doing in those late-night sessions with the Red Book. Instead of running from the uncomfortable feeling, you turn toward it. You say, essentially, okay, you've been trying to tell me something. I'm listening. And here is the mechanics of why that works. The shadow's whole reason for acting out, for sabotaging your relationships, for vetoing your goals, for creating that self-destructive pattern you can't seem to stop, is that it has never been acknowledged. It's been stuffed down since childhood, told it was bad or wrong or too much, and it has been knocking from the inside ever since. The moment you genuinely acknowledge it, not intellectually, but with felt attention in the body, the pressure starts to release. Now look, I know that sounds almost too simple, and someone in the comments is probably typing right now, Daniel, are you telling me I just need to sit with my feelings? Kind of, yes. I know, I'm sorry. I wish I had something more elaborate for you. But here's what that practice actually produces when you commit to it. The anxiety that was running in the background, the constriction, the constant low-grade tension, it starts to ease. And as it eases, something else happens. Your intuition sharpens. You start making decisions from clarity instead of fear. You stop attracting the same patterns because you are no longer the same wound-driven version of yourself generating them. The practical implementation is this. Pick a time, morning or evening, doesn't matter. Sit for a minimum of 10 minutes. Don't try to empty your mind. Instead, feel your body. Notice where there's tightness, pressure, heat, that weird clenched feeling around the solar plexus or the throat. Those are the locations where suppressed material tends to concentrate. Don't analyze it. Don't try to figure out where it came from. Just let it exist. Give it permission to be there. And then commit to this for 30 days. That's it, 30 days. Because here's what Jung's whole body of work, including everything he documented in the Red Book during those years of deliberate descent, points toward. The unconscious doesn't need to be defeated. It needs to be met. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that got abandoned, and it has been trying to come home the entire time. When you stop locking it in a vault and actually let it in, like Jung eventually did, like anyone who's done this work honestly will tell you, that's when the committee stops fighting and starts working together. That's when the mask comes off. That's when the goal stops running away from you. And that's when your words, your intentions, your decisions, they stop being contradicted from the inside. They start actually landing in reality. That's what this material is really about. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.